Hello everybody and welcome to the July 2022 update from Clydebridge Station. In this month's update we're going to be talking you through some building on the layout. We're going to be building a little map that will sit here, electronic map. I'll show you how that's done. We'll also be building one of these towers. I'll be talking you through the build of that. And we'll be carrying on with the concrete to complete the concrete area here in the depot. I'll be giving layouts and clubs some shout outs during the programme, and I'll also be offering you little bits of advice on how to do things in case I make any mistakes. If you've got any comments, queries or suggestions, then please leave them in the comments below, and thank you very much indeed for watching in advance. We'll start off with our little maps that we're going to build. As a child growing up in the 80s, one of the things I liked about visiting Kirkcaldy was that on the high street next to Timpson's shoe repairs, on the wall next to it on the side, there was an electric light up map. Basically what you done was you would have a map inside some glass, and it would have it'd be a map of the town centre, and there'd be buttons along the bottom in a bronze colour. And what you done with these is that you pressed one and it would light up where the location was. So let's say you chose railway station, you press a button and it would light up showing you where it was, and then you could work out how to get there. The map that I mentioned to you there at Kirkcaldy High Street was removed in the early 1990s, and in addition there were ones actually located elsewhere throughout Scotland, and I believe in England and Wales as well. There was actually one in Dunfermline at the bus station. The picture that you're going to see on screen is from the Old Fife Facebook group, and it actually shows you briefly a black and white image of one of them. And that's what I'm going to try and recreate in this first part of the programme. It is black and white, but what I do remember is that the colour of them happened to be the same colour as these trolleys here, maybe a slightly lighter shade. The trolleys have been painted, these brute trolleys have been painted in a blue aerosol from Halfords, and that is actually what we're going to be using in this project. Other things that you'll need if you want to recreate one of these will be some scale model scenery greyboard, a steel rule, craft knife, Yoo-hoo glue, a pen and a small piece of white paper to put inside, another small piece of white paper, and possibly a yellow pen to put along the bottom, and then some clear plastic film. So what we'll do is we'll get started, and I'll try and work out how I'm going to do this and talk you through it, and we'll see if we can actually get it built. There's going to be two getting built. One will sit here, the other one will sit in the railway station, and I'm thinking possibly putting it here next to the wee buffet as a sort of extra unusual feature next to the bench there. It's not good putting it outside because you have the rugby supporters all streaming through. Could get vandalised of that. Tight pavement, so just in there will do. So I'm going to get the equipment out and we'll have a look at what we're going to try and achieve. Okay, so this is me starting to make the cabinet part of the map. It's quite windy out there as I film this, so apologies in advance. So this is the front, and I don't know if you'll make that out, but I've actually cut the little square to make the cabinet glass in, but that won't get fitted until after everything's been sprayed. And that'll be your top and your bottom, and that'll be your sides there. I've then got to go and put legs on it. Now how I can do that with the legs is I've got some scale model scenery road sign poles that came with another kit that I don't need them all, so I can make poles out of that, and then it will get glued onto that afterwards. So that's what my plan of attack will be. So basically what I've now got to do is spray all these and then glue them together. It's too windy outside to spray them now, but the row of buttons will probably go along the bottom there, and obviously the map will have to sit in there, and both sides will get sprayed on the cabinet as well. That's me made this the hole there now in the front of the cabinet, and it would sit something like that. So obviously the next task will be to spray all of this blue and then let it dry, then add the map and then start to glue bits together. I'm going to be spraying both sides of the cabinet, by the way, just for completeness sake. Even the bits will be hidden, like the back of it will be hidden, I'm just going to spray both sides just to make it look more even. Plus the fact as well, the cabinet that will be sitting over at the station, you would be able to see the back of that. And what I'm also going to do, and a little thought that did occur to me when I was cutting the things out, was to use some more of the spare greyboard to make a little electrical cubicle that will sit below the map, sit below the cabinet, and it'll be sprayed in the grey primer that you see this yard lamp in. So that's what I'll be getting underway with in the next wee bit, is getting some spray painting done, and we'll make the cabinet, the electrical cubicle up. Time for a couple of shout outs for you, and give a wee shout out to Jason, who runs the excellent layout Barnabas Junction. If you like direct trail services, Barnabas Junction's for you. And if you like Network Southeast, then check out on Twitter Network Southeast Latchmere. Go and have a look at that as well. So let's get going on. We'll get outside and we'll get started spraying the main bits of the cabinet. That's the main structure getting drying now after I've given it a coat of blue paint. These are going to be the legs. I've made a wee change of plan. I'm using these bits of angled greyboard I've made as the legs. They'll be sprayed blue as well. And what I'm also going to do, I'm going to build up one of these parcels. I'm going to paint it black. It'll do it in a control cabinet, in a fuse box or relay box, and I'll get a little bit of signpost which will go up to the map itself to make it look like an electrical cable. And I'm going to just take you outside and let you see, because there's been another change of plan. When I was re-looking at the structure, I noticed that the top, the roof of it, actually went over the top and provide a little shelter for those using it. So what I've done is I've made up an extra bit which will act as a shelter, and this top bit here will actually get covered in white paper, and I'll maybe put visitor map on it. So we'll then get all that glued together, and obviously that's going to be my back, so that'll need to get the piece of paper in it with some lines drawn on it too. And that's actually what we're going to do next. Once that's all dry, we'll get this all glued together. Well, the legs have been sprayed blue. They're drying at the moment, and this is a little scale model scenery cardboard box that I've made up. There you go, which you can see there. That's going to get sprayed grey, and then it will sit underneath the map. And I've drew some random lines on to the map, and on the map itself, and what I'll do is I'll then start putting these bits together. Now this bit will have the film and the glass, as it were, behind it, and I've put some red dots on there. I looking for my yellow paint. Oh, I see the yellow paint now, in fact, so I'll put 6 yellow dots on there. I'll get it right yet, once the structure's glued together. And I'll just be using rocket card glue to glue those together. This will get sprayed grey, and that'll be the little electrical control cubicle box, as it were. Now, whilst I'm building these layouts, what about real trains? Well, Soy Bokau is a very keen rail enthusiast. He's done videos all over the place over the years, so I'll put a link up in the description to one of his videos, so check him out. And check out also Avoset 1989, give him a check out. As I say, there's plenty other channels and videos out there. West Blyth MPD, which is set in Northumberland, where I've actually got some relatives, by the way, is another one to check out. So I'm going to carry on now, and what I'll do is I'll get this sprayed grey. I'm just going to use Halford's primer, like what I used on the yard lamp, which you'll see me doing when I build it for real. And then we'll start putting this all together. Oh, and one little change I've made, I had a look at the design again, and I originally was going to put one of these on like that, but I looked at the original design and it has actually got a bit of a shelter over it, so I've made this, which will sit as a shelter over it, and then basically that will sit like that there, and I'll try and write in small white lettering visitor map, so that's a little change that I've made there. Anyway, I'm going to crack on and get this completed now. Now, I haven't put the legs on yet. The basic structure of the top bit of the map is done. I have used just red along the bottom there, and I've stuck the sign on. One error I made was, and okay, it's not straight, but there's nothing I can do about it now, is this base bit here. I actually had to trim a little bit more off so everything could fit together, but that's based upon, as good as I can get, the map that was on Kirkcaldy High Street, and what you saw in the photo there outside the first Dunfermline bus station, the upper one. Now, that was actually from a Facebook group called Old Dunfermline, and it's worth having a check out of that, especially if you used to live in Dunfermline or like Dunfermline, which is now Scotland's newest city. Okay, lots of great photos on there, and I've actually been given permission to use a few of them in the past for a group on about Woolworth's history. So there's 2 things to go and check out, and a couple of other people to mention to you who are not into model railways, but worth mentioning to you because they're on Twitter. If you could check out DJ Lee Butler, one of my favourite DJs from Liverpool, who cut his teeth at the Quadrant Park nightclub in the Bootle area, which is why there's a Quadrant Park nightclub on the layout, and Rugby Union's smartest dressed commentator, and Nick Mullins. He also knows a little bit about tennis. Right, I'm going to try and get the legs on and hope to God that it fits together, and we'll get it all put into place, and then you'll see what it's like once it's in place. Okay, so there it is in position now. What I had to do in the end is made a couple of changes. I've dispensed with the idea of the electrical box underneath it. It's going to be too fiddly to get it into position, and I only used 2 of the 4 legs because it's resting against something, in this case a wall. It's been glued down onto the ground using Yoo-hoo glue, and the buttons aren't evenly spaced out, but you wouldn't notice that from a distance, but close up you'll notice it. But that's basically what it was like on Kirkcaldy High Street and in the photo you saw of Dunfermline bus station. What I'm going to do now is, having learnt lessons from building this first one, is I'm going to make a second one to put at the railway station. And then once I've done with that, you'll be able to see it all. But that, as I say, we're coming across, I'm told, a lot of Scottish towns and cities. Whether they were the case in England and Wales and Northern Ireland, I don't know, but according to groups that I'm on, they were coming across a lot of Scottish cities. I mean, they probably gone at the scrapyard by now and dumped, and a long forgotten bit of history. And obviously nowadays with Google Street View and Google Maps, they're rather obsolete. You find interactive ones in shopping centres still, but that was probably the nearest you would get to it, an interactive one back in the 80s. So as I say, I'm going to go and build another one, learning lessons from having built this first one, and that'll sit down at the railway station, and it'll be in its chosen area. Will be at the back fence between the storage area for W.H. Smith and the cafe. So that's the second one in position there. You can just see it at the station, and I keep saying these lamps are going to get eventually replaced, so they will. Just to point out to you that you'll notice that I've actually slightly revised the design of the legs on this one compared to the one. They're not sitting at right angles, or two bits of greyboard joined together either end. Again, in the same sort of places where the buffet is, and really the buffet could do with a litter bin there at some point in the future. Justin Noble at Scale Model Scenery, you might get an order for them one day. But yeah, that's what the map looks like. And as I say, I don't know if there were any of these ever at railway stations, but I've decided to put one at the railway station here. You also notice in the background there the clothing company that I'm an ambassador for. Visit our website at www.wrangler.co.uk if you're in the UK, other European territories, eu.wrangler.com. Now we're going to get on to building something else now, and it's a talk through one, and it's going to be this yard lamp here. By the way, links in the description below to everything from Scale Model Scenery that I've used in the construction of things in this month's video. So that's what we're going to be doing next. So this is what we're now going to build. 50-foot yard light LX45000, and you'll notice you get two different types of lights, the 1950s style ones or the 1980s style ones, and I'll be building it using the 1980s style ones, which I've done on the one that's just along there. You can just see it there. This is not going to be a walk through the whole thing. You're going to see me building the whole thing from start to finish, and I'll be showing you bits, then off camera building it and showing you progress. If you want to see the whole thing getting done in real time, Dylan Sanderson, when he worked for Scale Model Scenery, built one of these using and put these lights on. The link to that video is up in the top right hand corner if you want to have a look at that. So what you'll need for this one's actually a wee bit bent, but it should straighten itself out once we start putting it together, just the way it's been stored. What you'll need is the kit itself, a glass jar with a bit of damp tissue inside so that the nozzle doesn't get clogged up, on your laser cut kit glue. You'll also need, once it's finished, I would recommend grey paint to give it all a full colour, and once you've got it done, you're getting it sighted, I would recommend you put it down with Yoo-hoo glue somewhere as well. So let's get underway and we'll get the kit out. two other things you'll need: cutting mat, craft knife. Now what it says here is to release parts A and B from the laser board sheet, and they happily have a plan of the sheet for you on the back. Now I'm actually very lucky in that I've got two sets of instructions, because I bought one at Model Rail Scotland and ordered another one recently. So what I'm going to do with this is use this set of instructions as my plan for that, so I know which is which, and read from the other set of instructions. Of course, if you were getting really stuck and you had to keep turning back, another little tip I would give you is, if you've got a mobile telephone, take a photo of the kit map, that way you'll know what to do as well. Now very inconveniently, or very conveniently, depending upon what your thoughts are on it, part A is not here, but is actually this one. And you would just be very careful when you're actually breaking these out, because it is actually possible to snap them. I haven't done it, but I know one person who did, and had to actually go and order another one, so please be very careful with it. So you would just take that out. Actually, you have to turn it over, and this is how Dylan does it, and this is how Justin does it when building their respective kits. And if you're actually doing this right now, please do not go and cut yourself. It is very easy to do. So part A is almost out. Still a bit wonky there, still a bit caught. There we go, that's us got it out now. See, so that's part A done. We'll straighten that out obviously, so it's a bit better looking. But the last thing I want to do is to order another one. And it says part B. Well, part B is actually this part here. And what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm going to glue these together using rocket laser cut kit glue. And by the way, the links to everything that I've used by Scale Model Scenery are in the description below, folks. So I'll crack on and do this, and then we'll show you where we're up to in terms of gluing this together. So that's parts B and part C in place. Now one thing to point out, Chet, and it's very difficult to show you, so I'm going to zoom in. There we go. There's little notches that point up, and these are called the ladder guides, and it's very important that they're all stuck on a certain way, these parts, so that the ladder guides are all running in the same place. Otherwise you're going to have the ladder and no guides. So make sure that when you are actually building this, that the ladder guides are all pointing in this the same direction, and the bit that has the ladder guide on it should be stuck onto part A. And indeed it is the ladder which we're going to do next. What we'll do is we'll carefully move that then out. It's still a little bit fragile, and this will straighten things out too. And there's a couple of little hints and tips to give you with the ladder too. The instructions state that the bottom of the ladder should be level with the step and the mast base ends. I'll show you what that means in a minute. You don't put it right to the bottom of the actual structure itself, because if you do that, then the base, then the bottom of it will not fit into the base, and you'll have to cut a bit of the ladder off. So I'm going to actually show you what they mean by this, and I'll pick this up very carefully, and this is not getting edited out, but I don't know how well you can see it, but there's a little it goes wide and then narrow. It's got to be in line with the wide, with the narrower bit there. Now, whilst I'm putting the glue on here, give a shout out to Mike, who runs a layout here on YouTube called Pudham Junction, which is also on Facebook, so if you could go and give him a shout out, please. He needed clarification recently for a question that he had about the ScotRail Express push-pulls. You may remember I'd done a video of them just recently. In fact, it was a video just before this one. So this is the bit where you're threading it like a needle. Doing it very carefully in our own little world, as Bob Ross used to say. I wonder what Bob Ross would have made of this layout. There we go, that's about right. So you just need to keep your finger on it and start to press it down. Don't worry if you've got to apply more glue to it, by the way, because that looks like what I'm going to have to do here. No, maybe got away with it. There we go. So I've now got to glue E and F on. E, F. Okay. They'll go either side. G will go the opposite to that. So I'm going to crack on and do this, hopefully without any cock-ups, and I'll show you where we're up to. That's it all done now. Parts E and F are in, and then you slot in part G there. It should just slot in between them, and I've obviously went and then glued it all into position. Now don't worry about the glue that's on there, because when you come to spray this, that'll actually be covered over anyway. This is where it gets rather tedious now, because we have to use parts I, J and K. That's Icicle, Juliet and Kilo. And these are these little girder bits or bone bits. And what I'm going to do with them is they're actually going to get put on around the three bits of structures. There's one in the top, there's one round about here, and there's one down at the bottom. There's two wide ones and two narrow ones, so for each bit you use a wide, narrow, wide, narrow. That's the easiest way to do it. And a wee tip I'd give you is only take out one bit at a time. So part I, Icicle, is what we're going to use first, and they actually go at the top. I'll do this one on camera so you can actually see me doing it and potentially getting it wrong. So it should be short opposite short, long opposite long. So that's the thing I would do is I've just went and said to you how to do it, and then I've actually realised it'd be better doing it this other way. By the way, the rocket laser cut kit glue you can get from Scale Model Scenery as well. Link to that in the description below. It just goes on like that, and you can just see there how it overlaps a little bit. By the way, be careful when you're doing this, because obviously, as you could imagine from the size of some of the parts, they are easy to lose if you drop them, so be very careful about this. Never build this outside, because for that simple reason the parts could go missing. And unfortunately, Scale Model Scenery, quite understandably, are not in the business of just supplying spare bits for sale for these kits, because obviously it just wouldn't be economical. They do sell spare nozzles for these, like what I've just had to do. I'm told to run that under hot water afterwards. That's a new nozzle, but they just can't buy off the shelf things like spare bits for this. They do supply you when you're building the brute trolleys, as I've done in a previous video, with the lots of spare wheels. Oops. The structure's alright. Leave this for about an hour or so once you've built it to dry before you then use spraying it your chosen colour, by the way. And I should point out as well that the lamps will be putting on as a separate thing afterwards, because this time I'm going to paint them black. Well, actually I'm going to spray them silver, in fact, and then paint... No, I'm going to paint them black. Sod it. Right, anyway, as you've seen me talking and yapping through there, that's that bit on there. So off camera I'm going to do the rest of this, and then you'll see how it goes. Part J goes down here, part K goes there, and I'll cover those notches there. There we go. So that's the cross members on. Now the instructions say that the middle cross member should be the third one up from the bottom, so it's there. A lot of people give you the instructions don't state. You maybe heard me saying that you go short, opposite, short, opposite, short, long, opposite, long. A wee tip to give you: always put your long ones behind the ladder and opposite the ladder, and your short ones at 90 degrees to the ladder. That way you'll have the uniform appearance of the cross members: short, opposite, short, long, opposite, long, and it won't be mixed up. So it's a little tip that I would give you. That's what I've done here and what I've done with the other one. We're going to get plugged in now, as it were, because we're going to build a little relay box. Release panel M, which is this middle bit here. I'll just put that to the side now, because we'll need all the room we can get. When Dylan Sanderson built this, it took him over an hour, but admittedly he had to stop to answer comments on the live chat, and he had a camera problem. But I would certainly give yourself an hour to do this. N is the two sides, which is this bit and this bit. Yeah, I would give yourself at least an hour just to build this, not to actually paint it. The paint will come later, and I would certainly say leave it for at least an hour to fully dry before you paint it. The paint I'll be using is Halford's Grey Primer, and they recommend to leave it for about 15 minutes. Then I'll leave it obviously for a bit more, but I'm going to have to watch because the weather is not too kind to me at this moment in time. As you could, I don't know if you can see outside, but it's got rather dull on this Sunday. It hasn't rained yet, but I've already been outside doing some work on the back veg patch, tidying up the potatoes. This is where this could go horribly wrong, and you might actually want to use a pair of tweezers if you're really struggling. I think we're alright. whilst that's drying, top and bottom, O, these two bits. I'm actually lucky, as I say, that I've got one that I've already built, so I can always cross-reference with that if need be. But I would certainly say if you watch Dylan's one, when he built it, he actually took his time with it, and you'd be doing yourself no harm in pausing it occasionally. And even writing down things too, so when you come to build it yourself, you know exactly what you're doing. Now, for goodness sake, Robert, get this right. Laser cut kit glue will bond in a matter of seconds. So it's important that you get it right quickly when you're putting the stuff together. We'll leave that for the moment. There we go. Oh, right. That needs one more thing to it. The cabinet door. B. Now it says here to glue the equipment box into place at the base of the mast, roughly 10 to 12 mils up from the base. Now I'm looking at mine, and I actually stuck it round about there, so I would say that's probably about a good point to put it. And we'll do that just shortly. This door is not going to go on right first time, I know it. But I'm filming it now and there's not a jot I can do. Right. See, there's a bit actually come out there, it's a side, so what I'm going to do is put more glue on and glue that back into place. Right, I've done that off camera while filming, so that is to be left for a few minutes to dry. And then what will happen is it will sit like that. I'll go over there, so I'll leave that to dry whilst the instructions actually tell us we've got to glue the mast onto base H, so that's what we'll actually do in a few minutes. In the meantime, whilst we're going to that to dry, I'm going to actually get everything ready for making the top platform, because that'll allow everything else to dry. And what you've got is you've got all these parts: Papa, Queen, Romeo and Sierra. That's Papa I've cut out. Queen is that part. Yep. Queen there and there, Romeo there and there, Sierra. You might be wondering why on earth do you need all those bits. Well, what we'll do is we'll leave Sierra the now, because we'll get the first bit of, we'll get Queen out. Quebec, sorry. Quebec in the phonetic alphabet. I'll show you how I'm going to do this first bit, and then off camera I'll do the rest of it, so you're not having to get bored to death by me. it's the same idea as when you were putting the cross members on. They're narrow or wide, and way to do it is work your way around wide, narrow, wide, narrow. So Queen is the Quebec, sorry, is the wide one, Romeo being the narrow one. And if you notice, I've managed to do that without swearing. What I've not done right is I've forgotten to take this bit out. Don't worry, that's my fault, but we'll get that out of there now. There we go. Goes in the bucket. So off camera, what I'll do is I'll straighten that up, and off camera I'm going to build the rest of this. This is to go on the top, and I'll then talk you through what I've done. Part Sierra is the bit that sits on the top here. There you go. Let's hold it for a few seconds. It can get a bit wobbly. Right, I think that's fine. Just put that to the side there on top of that track. And we're going to go back to do a couple of things. We'll get the base ready. What's your base? That was simple, wasn't it? And what we'll do is we'll get the little cabinet on first. Your relay box, as it were. I'm told, by the way, that once you're finished with these, making something with the laser cut kit glue, I'm told that one tip that I've been given is that you can actually run the nozzle under hot water, and that would clear it. This is a very delicate operation, but there we go, we've got it in, and I'm going to glue all around here. And if there's kids watching this, or if there's anybody who has kids, just as a simple reminder to you that obviously adhesives should be used under adult supervision. Okay. Don't be tempted to move that now, okay? We'll leave that for a minute or two. This is the actual lamps we're going to use, and they'll then get stuck onto here. What I'll do is I'll make them up now, and we'll get that on, and then that'll be that done. These will get glued on afterwards. Now, a little tip I'll give you with these is you can put it all on and then spray it if you want to, or you can actually use Yoo-hoo glue after you've built it. The reason why you spray it after you've built it, in contrast to the visitor maps that I've made, is that the visitor maps were made out of greyboard, which would obviously absorb the paint. These are actually made out of, I think it's MDF, although somebody at Scale Model Scenery could correct me on that. And what you would have to do is, or what you would have to remember is that won't absorb the paint as much, and if you spray it beforehand, it's not going to go together very well. You'll obviously be continuously gluing it again, plus as you're handling it so much, the paint will obviously come off. Now, what I was doing there whilst I was yapping was making the 3 bits for my lamp. I'm going to put it down like that so you get an idea of how this goes together. Oops, there we go. So it should sit something, I think it's like that actually. Let's have a wee look. Have I got this right? No. A wee tip I've just noticed, there's little notches that you'll see just there. If you line them all up, should have that in. That's how your lamp will be. That's the bottom and that's the top. So, very simply, glue on, put it in there. Dylan used the 1950s style lamps, and when I was chatting to him at Scale Model Scenery in February, he actually did say to me that I would need to use these lamps for the era of my layout. However, I have actually found in an edition of Motive Power Monthly from April 1989 a photo at Stratford TMD, and the yard lamps there were actually had the 1950s style ones. It's called the long neck lamps. I think I'm calling it the long neck, and actually probably wouldn't be a long neck, I'd be in the brass neck. A good description for me. Needs more glue, this. And what I'll then do is I'll show you, I'll get this one built, hopefully it stays together. I'll just put that down there. I'm going to build the rest of them off camera and then get this put together, and I'll have to leave it. I'll move that over there now. I'll then have to leave that so it can dry properly, and then it'll get sprayed later on today. Although that might change at the time that I'm filming this because obviously the weather doesn't look very good out there. So I'll crack on and we'll come back in a few minutes. So there we have it, that's it built, and that's the lights ready to get glued onto it after it's been sprayed. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave that for about it'll be about an hour, but I think it's going to be sometime in the next week at the time of filming. But you won't have to wait that long, because you'll only have to wait a few minutes to see it all being done, sprayed. These won't get sprayed. Oh, see, the glue's not quite dry on that one. And that one wasn't right, so that should be it now. But obviously if that goes again, it's no harm just to use rocket card glue on it. So that's that structure built. I'll get it sprayed, and it's going to sit just round about out of shot here, in this area here. And it'll be stuck down with Yoo-hoo glue. So we don't need these instructions now. So that's what I'll be doing next. And then, as I say, we'll get it, that's how it would look like. Something about there, it's actually not too bad. It is actually well away from causing any issues of clearance, by the way. I quite like it, and I might get a third one put in somewhere in the future. What I'll do is I'm going to lay it down flat like that, however, so it doesn't fall over and get broken now, because it's obviously not been glued in. So that means I've now got to just have some food, and then another day we'll get that sprayed, and we'll let you see what it's like. So that's the second yard lamp now glued into place. It was sprayed outside with Halford's primer, and you'll see some bits of it on the mesh there haven't gone through, and that's actually not a bad thing, makes it look a bit more realistic. What I like about these riveted bits here is a sort of worn in grey on that. I painted the lights themselves, and I've glued them on, and I think I've got them stuck on properly this time, so he says anyway, well, we'll see anyway, because one of them's a little bit loose on the other one. I've also got the spray at the bottom. It's not actually went in too well there, but again it'll give it a sort of rusty weathered finish as well. Back over at this side, got a gentleman now standing here. Don't know why his arms are out, but anyway, he's there. So we've got Derek there, and that's Dave, I think. So the next task is to carry on with the concrete area here, and you can see that how I've started it. So these bits will go along there, and I'll need to cut more bits for along here and here, more bits of greyboard. Then what we'll do is we'll get the concrete, which is on order from Scale Model Scenery, get it stuck onto these, and then that'll be this whole area here. And just before the end of the report as well, or this month's update, I have some hot news for you on something that you'll see in the August update. So we're now moving on to the last bit for this month's update, and that's the applying of the concrete on these bits of greyboard. I've had to wait on more concrete sheets coming from Scale Model Scenery, and I do sincerely hope I've got enough. I've got the greyboard cut. What I haven't done is obviously attached each greyboard to the next bit. That I will do throughout. And what I've had to do here is obviously chip away some of the ballast where I'm going to get the joins. Not so much of an issue here, however. I'll take this Rake Mark IIs out of the way so I can get the concreting done, and then once I'm satisfied with it, I'll run the Mark IIs back in to make sure all is well, and then that should be that job done. And at a later date, ballast will go in here, and this whole area will get ballasted as the last bit. So the depot is still not finished yet, but it's looking more like a depot now. So I'm going to go underway and start getting the concrete down. And once you've seen this update, go and check out on YouTube Pride Parkway. Give him a check out, see what he... this is an N-gauge layout, I believe, set in the northeast of England. So give him a check out, Pride Parkway. And give a check out to my mate here on YouTube, Ryan Swain. I've put the link to his channel in the description below. And I've also put the links to the stuff I've used here from Scale Model Scenery in the description below as well. So check out my mate Ryan Swain. Right, we'll get on with this and get the concreting done. Right, so there we go. So I've done a couple of bits of testing there, and I've had to make some adjustments to it. One bit of testing, I used 47475, but for some reason it's been derailing here. But as you saw in the footage there with 47834 Firefly, it didn't. I've also had to trim this back a bit because parts of the locomotive were actually rubbing against it. That doesn't appear to be the case now. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's better than the shambles I had before. This isn't finished yet, of course, because I've still got to get the ballast in here. There's ballast got to go in there and along this whole road here and the point. So there's still quite a bit to do here, and I've also got to go and get a bit of greyboard to put under there so this thing can be stuck down, as it were. You can see it just bowing a little bit there. So that's obviously going to have to get worked on. You just see that there. There you go. So that's the concrete along the sidings there, all done in the depot. So as I say, we've just got the ballasting to do to make it look a bit more like this here. Now, just before we finish off, there's a couple of bits of hot news. This is going to be another project that will be done in the future. The rest of this ballast here is bits that are going to be chipped away, and there's going to be a wall going all the way along here, and then it'll probably be replaced by a high fence as we reach here instead, similar to what's going to be getting installed there. Now the first bit of wall is down at the moment, but the rest of it won't be done until later on in the year, because of some other things I want to do on the layout first. But that looks to be quite good already, and I might just put a fence in here too at some point as well, as sort of protection for the road there. Now the other bit of hot news is, I don't know if you can quite see that, we have two new locomotives on the layout. Both of them are Lima machines. 47569, the Gloucestershire Regiment. I'll just get that in here, sorry about the light, but 47569, the Gloucestershire Regiment, and heading the parcels train we have the lady in red. Ex-Scottish Region push-pull machine 47712. Lady Diana Spencer. Now, you might not be able to pick it up quite clearly there because of the sunlight, but she has got her push-pull cables on. Both those machines will be reviewed next month in the August update. I'll be going into more detail about them. Also next month I'm hoping to get a bit more cable trunking installed, and the next video from this layout, from this channel rather, will be at the Cooper Model Railway Show. I'll be taking my camcorder, filming that, and I might be getting a couple of things from the show as well. So that's the next video you'll see, and maybe one or two of those things that I buy will actually end up on the layout here. But the cable trunking here is going to start to get replaced. Put a bit of greyboard in there, and then it'll be getting ballasted over at some point in the future. So that's what you're going to be seeing next month, a review of the two Lima machines, cable trunking, and we'll be starting to put the fencing in there. So that's all for this month's update. I sincerely hope that you've enjoyed it, and if you have, I hope it inspires you to do things on your layout as well. Until next time, all that remains for me to do is to say thank you very much indeed for watching. Please take care of yourselves.